Council Committee meeting for Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. I'd like to call City Development and Planning first, then we'll recess because Mrs. Carver has a training that she needs to go to. All right, so I'd like to call for City Development and Planning.
Good evening. Since we last reported on our ARPA updates, Cocoa House contract is complete and pending review from the mayor's office, as well as BCNI's contract. Still pending some of the pre-contractual requirements are the YMCA Harbor House and Electric City Co-op. Electric City Co-op is 95% there. They just don't have site control yet, so more information to come with that. Miracle on Craig is still currently in the hands of Corporation Council. I don't know if Maxine has an update on where we are.
It has been deposited for recording today. It will take about a week or two for us to get confirmation of recordation.
Thank you.
The Bethesda House, we are still waiting for a decision from City Council on their additional ARPA fund request of $400,000. The same for YMCA. They are asking for the $100,000 to support the Black and Latinos Achievers Program. We also have pending the YWCA, who asked for additional ARPA funds of $1.5 million. As of February 16th, our affirmative action officer has asked to make a change with the ARPA funds for the Empowerment Center. He would like that to go towards programming. So I'm not sure if I should move forward with the legislative request to City Council, but I did put it on here just for items to discuss. And last but not least is the Create Studios. Received the email from City Council President asking me to do some research on an application that was deemed lost, so we were able to retrieve that application, and now we're waiting for an updated application with current dates, current budget to submit to City Council for consideration.
All right. So some of the stuff we covered, like the YM that asked for the $100,000. We talked about the fact that we don't have $100,000 left for that. So I at the time asked the mayor if we need to just write a letter back. Well, our decision on that was that we're going to be coming to you with this. That our decision on that was that we would just send them a letter and say we don't have the money, but please, provide additional information. Is what Mr. Woodbury said he would like to hear about their program. The Bethesda House, we talked about it, but we have to come to you, Ms. Carver. Our meeting was on Thursday to follow up with all the different things that we need. And the same goes with the YWCA and Dury. This is our first hearing about this. So it's about what's $1 million something. They're asking for the entire thing
to go towards programming.
So I think that's something for more discussion. We'd have to look at their application, that is Dury's application, before we could even.
It is Empowerment application that was combined with Dury.
But they want all the money to go to programming.
Which Dury's money already is allocated for programming.
And so programming for?
That was not all the way clear in the application. Dury's application was really about construction, fixing part of their property. It wasn't programming, but somewhere along the lines, these applications got intertwined with each other.
Well, for me, I need more clarity, Ms. Patrick.
I thought that the part of the grant that was the Empowerment Center was, I didn't get that it was construction. I thought we were looking to actually have a building.
Let me clarify.
Okay.
Dury's original ARPA application, not Empowerment Center.
Right.
Dury applied for ARPA fundings.
Right.
To fix up property that they own to offer services, right? To offer some programming services. Somewhere in between these applications, they got combined and Dury was assigned to offer the programming for Empowerment Center.
Okay. So the piece that is the 818 Albany Street is off the table then, it sounds like.
He's asking to move forward from that property.
So I'm not clear on, but I guess, Mayor, you could speak more about what happened with the Empowerment Center?
It's
Process.
not formally off the table yet, but just the cost estimates are too high, so there has not been a formal decision on how you would do the conceptual delivery of services if you don't have that building. And some of the last discussions were, is the ability to maybe move some of that into the Miracle on Craig concept. Now that is shifted, and so I would still treat it as a dynamic review on how to preserve some of those things conceptually and then actually be able to implement them within physical space that we have.
But right now, we don't have this physical space for
Correct.
anything.
Correct.
You had your,
Well, in those pre-identified sites, there may be other things that you could work at the community college. It's complementing some of the stuff the Seat Center does. The school district has some program that they're doing. And so I don't preclude ongoing discussions with any of those entities to see what we can do that gives us the most value for the dollars.
I think the idea of the Empowerment Center was trying to kind of, to take over what McTap used to do and keep it kind of neighborhood based, which, so everything that you talked about is like, so people would have to like, go outside of that. So I think that was part of the reasoning behind the Empowerment Center. Did you have your hand up, Mr.?
Yeah, I was just saying, I understand that kind of the merging of these two projects was because there was some alignment and kind of what they, wanted to offer. And now being that, well, I guess we'd have to just wait for more clarity as to where the Empowerment Center is so that we can make a more informed decision on how to move forward. I just think about how the Empowerment Center it's not being exactly clear as to what the next steps are. How does that impact a degree, and should we look at maybe separating the two, or maybe kind of to what the mayor was saying, that we look at it maybe even encouraging a third, even fourth partner to kind of fill a gap. I was just wondering, what we think about that.
And if I may add, Madam President, when we heard from our affirmative action officer at the last meeting, he did present that we are doing some of the programming. Currently, it is funded with CDBG funds, and it is not enough. So we do have a deficit between the program that we're offering, what those expenses are, and what the affirmative action office was allotted for this calendar year.
Okay. So the deficit in program funding from CDBG.
Correct. So they took a hit. They applied for $37,500. They were awarded $20,000, and that was supposed to cover rental space for the program for the construction class. He also has the janitronic work training program. So we've already overspent.
Okay. But I think we still need some clarity in writing in terms of what Mr. Elgarty wants to go
I will
forward.
get that information.
Right. Does everyone have other questions about that? Oh no? Okay. All right, so we can do that, and I'll send you an email on all the things we discussed.
Okay,
All right.
thank you. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
for
The one last thing, though, everyone, is about Create. I'll let you know mine. It's about Create. They did submit an application. Somehow it got lost in the very first round. And they brought that to our attention. Or let me just be clear. That was brought to the attention of the Department of Development pre-Ms. Carver. I'm not sure what happened. So then they brought it forth again. They sent it to me. I forwarded the email to Ms. Carver. So, but at this point in time, we know that we really just lack funds to do that. So we're going to have to take a look at what's going to really be allocated and how we can consider that, because they definitely submitted their application on time, given it around, but somehow it just didn't get moved forward. All right, so Mr. Williams is first.
Just a point of clarification, I know the mayor briefly touched on the current status of the Miracle on Craig Street project, and just so everyone's on the same page, I left our last special meeting with the understanding that there'll still be time allotted to reach out to that prospective coalition to see if they can come and present their, I guess. Proposal. I just want to make sure we're still functioning with that understanding.
That, the Department of Development just received that letter today.
Perfect.
So we weren't on the same page up until a couple of hours ago, but we are now.
Thank you, Ms. Gardner.
But there was also another entity out there, though, that, so there were two.
Yes.
So the understanding was that both of those would then be presenting a proposal for that particular building.
Okay,
And we could probably talk to the mayor more about that.
okay.
Thank you for that clarification. Yes, Ms. Patrick?
So the CDBG funding, we're about to have the first meeting, I think, right, next week perhaps?
Today, that's what she has to leave.
5 minutes from now.
Not 5.
That's why it's not on my calendar
20 minutes
today,
from now.
also. It'll be interesting to see, whether some of these applications, like I can't remember what the Create one is actually for, but, whether some of these entities that unfortunately we're unable to fund, I would think will probably be coming into your office through the CDBG avenue shortly.
They have RSVP.
Okay, yeah, so it'll just be, I think we need to all keep that in mind, that that ongoing annual pot of money is about to launch as well.
This was for therapeutic art. I did go back and read it after I got the email.
So,
Mr. Toro?
I'm going to write on Ms. Patrick. That was my question
Okay.
as well. Yep. So-
Mr.
Just to
Rivera?
follow up on the letter that you just mentioned, is it a letter or a proposal you received with regards to the miracle allocation?
I guess it can serve as both. It would need to be a proposal, would need more information. There's not a budget or anything, but they are asking, it's more like a coalition. They want to have some rights to the decision making that will happen with Miracle on Craig.
But it's clear to them. I did make it clear that they would need to put a formal proposal forward.
So can we ask them, because the time is of the essence, we're approaching March.
Again, we literally just received that letter today, so I did have a brief conversation with the mayor, so I need to reach out and schedule a meeting with them. So I will and ask for a proposal and have them come and present to city council. But I have to be transparent, I don't know if I can meet with them before February 29th, which was their ask.
Okay, all right. Ms. Barash, you had a question?
Yeah, so the properties are reverting to the city since I recorded the deeds. Are you talking about a proposal for a future?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? No?
Thank you, I
Well, thank you
appreciate
very
you
much.
accommodating me.
Yes, I appreciate you. So we're going to adjourn to development planning, and then we'll return to the agenda. So may I have, recess. May I have a motion to recess? Ms. Patrick?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mudavera, and we're all in favor?
Aye.
We're recessed.
So I'd like to call to order Public Safety Committee. We have 5 items on the agenda tonight, the first of which is going to be the vehicle donation that's going to be spoken to by Casey Whitney.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to ask for permission to receive a donation of a 2021 Ford Mach-E, a fully electric vehicle from Metro Ford. Now the vehicle is valued at $34,000. Now the vehicle will be used by the Schenectady police officers assigned as the community engagement officers located within the Schenectady School District, and there are no matching funds required.
Any
Other
questions or comments?
questions? Oh, I'm sorry. That's your committee.
Should have been fired. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have the motion?
So move.
second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The second item on the agenda tonight is a resolution in support of the Assembly and State Bills Alpha 7652/Sierra 7546, establishing a school speed zone camera demonstration program in the city of Schenectady. As many of you recognize, this was a conversation brought forward by both myself and Mr. Palomini. This has been reintroduced back into the Senate, and I made a note that it's currently forwarded to the Transportation Committee as of early January. So just wanted to make the council aware that this aspect of consideration is still moving forward. So we'll continue to monitor that and keep the council aware of any updates. All right, the next item on the agenda.
I'm
No,
sorry.
you need a
one second.
resolution of support.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
The resolution support.
So we're going to need to resubmit the resolution to support the continued pushing through of that, so may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
The next item on the agenda tonight is a resolution in support of Assembly and State Bills Alpha 7653/Sierra 7545 relating to the adjudications and owner liability for the violation of traffic control signal indications in the city of Schenectady. And in similar fashion, this is the continuation of the bill that allows them to actually bring forth legal action to these individuals. So we need to continue with another resolution for support. May I have a motion if there are any questions or concerns?
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
The next item on the agenda tonight is the CPRB, Civilian Police Review Board appointment letter for the Human Rights Commission. And I'll be spoken to by Renee Hope.
Can have names submitting to the council of Anthony Fowler and Arthur Butler, the Human Rights Commission.
Perfect.
This.
One second. Before there are any questions or comments, I did want to take advantage of the opportunity to just ask, keep hearing of an additional individual from the League of Women's Voters. Just trying to make sure we're able to continue with a fully staffed review board, so I didn't know if there was any underlying
Continue
issues.
to review that, the designee and the alternate.
I'm sorry, what was that, sir?
Continue to review moving those forward for designee and the alternate.
For the League of Women's Voters?
Correct.
Ms. Warfield?
Yeah, so do we have a timeline? Because I don't know about the rest of them, continually getting emails and phone calls about them, on their inability to have a quorum. As I spoke with you on the phone, their last meeting, they had to cancel
Okay,
because of that.
moving some names forward, which will give them other.
I said the same thing, they're like, we'd like a full body. So is there any timeline that you have?
At this point, I don't.
Oh, and just as a point of clarification, there's no nominations currently on the table?
Their names have been submitted and continue to review them.
Okay. So hearing no further questions or comments, please have a motion to move forward the two submitted primary and alternate from the Human Rights Commission.
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
The last point of discussion is to amend the Chapter Code 93, Section 6, for the term limits, holdovers, and vacancies.
Mr. Williams, I provided the council with copies of the relevant portions of the city ordinance dealing with vacancies, so it's a point of departure for your discussions. So those are the two relevant portions, 93.3 and 93.6. So if you want to have discussions on that, and then I can follow along, and then whether I can help draft some proposed legislation regarding that, as long as you have it in front of you, rather than me kind of guessing what you all want. So,
So I know for myself, I've definitely reviewed this code significantly. I don't know, I don't want to rush any of the fellow council members. Just let me know what you're comfortable with. I know for me specifically, it was adding in the language to identify adding a timeline outside of the 60 days that an individual is noted pre their term ending, and then applying an additional 30 days thereafter for the agencies to have to forward a nomination, or that ability to replace that individual would come to the mayor, who said that he was open to receiving candidates from any form or fashion, in addition to writing in language specifically addressing the opportunity for organizations to present alternates. Ms. Warfield?
So you're asking, so there's a letter here from from the chair of the CPRB, and she specifically says that if the organization fails to make the recommendation to the mayor, that the organization will have forfeited their right. So that's the ask of that. Then the mayor be able to, with the support of the council, be able to put another name forward. Is that the only change that they're asking for at this time?
That and the inclusion of the alternates, but also making sure the language read that did not forfeit that organization from resubmitting someone in the future. It just meant for the duration of that individual's term, they would lose that opportunity. Ms. Patrick?
And so I didn't get a chance to read this piece yet that we just got. Does it,
That's just the current ordinance right now. This
So
is without
this-
any changes. This is
Okay.
just for your, focusing on what you all, that's what it is right now. So if you want to change it, nothing's been changed. That's how it exists right now.
And then if I may, definitely, I think the place that we're in right now with the passing out of committee for Mr. Fowler and Mr. Butler, and then also the continued review of the League of Women's Voters, I think we're now working to actively get the members. There's still an emphasis on passing this amendment to the code. So I don't know if people would feel more comfortable having a moment to read it outside of the committee meeting, but essentially the changes I just said is what the chair from the CPRB is recommending. Ms. Patrick?
I'd be in support of moving forward with this resolution as presented by the CPRB.
Okay.
So I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but.
Any other questions, Ms.
In my brief review of it, it almost seemed like that's not so much of a significant change. It almost feels like the language that exists and could interpret it to where we're trying to go. So I almost feel that, so I could be in support of it as well.
Right. And then it is a minor amendment, and the emphasis was put on allowing the board to receive their full body and then to be able to make those recommendations at a grander scale with a full board.
Mr. Williams, are you looking to fill that from the general public then? If the organization fails to put forward a nominee, then the mayor could pick somebody from the general public, and then the council could vote on that appointment. But it would be a general public appointment, and it's not taking away from the existing structure of the various other organizations. It's just for that appointment, for that term period, be coming from the general public rather than from any because that organization for that cycle has forfeit, not for lack of a better term, has passed on that particular appointment. And
Right,
then maybe the mayor can then get a general public appointee for that term, and then all those other frameworks as to the membership would stay in place.
Correct.
Would you want to see some language to that effect, and I can send it to you all next time?
Mr. Rubin?
So follow up to Mr. Bryan, does that bar them from submitting an applicant in a 2-year period?
I would say that vacancy would have already been filled.
So they will have to wait that 2-year cycle?
The assumption if we
Expression
can,
of the term is what's proposed.
Yeah.
so I would say if we were continuing with the inclusion of an alternate, that agency would be able to submit an alternate, but that primary seat would have been filled, or would be theoretically filled. Ms. Porter?
So the other thing, I think that when the last time we had this discussion, we said that the council would also be able to, submit recommendations to the mayor. And I think we should need to look a little bit deeper into Section 93, because I do believe that there's a citizen at large that we're not currently putting there. And in addition to the mayor, I think there's another seat there. I'll have to look more closely at 93. And also the ex officio, I believe, is a public safety commissioner that is not a voting member, but would be a part of this board.
As far as regarding you're saying another position from...
I believe there is, and I thought we had the whole thing, but I only have page 1, so I'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
So the 2 ex officio members, one of which is the commissioner, as Ms. Porterfield highlighted, and the second is the representative from the police department, which I believe is Lieutenant... can't remember. Captain Allen. Sorry, Captain Allen. But to answer your previous question, I don't know if we'd have to write in specific language, because the assumption is the mayor would be receiving candidates that could come from anyone, to include a member of the organization that lost the right, that they would still be able to theoretically submit their name also. Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, and again, the intent when the legislation was first put in was to have a broad-based participation in that board. So it had various groups throughout the community, and it's run through periods of being very active. Sometimes it's a little bit less active, or bouncing back. Now the other side would be to review those groups has there been any change in the community since this legislation was put in where another group should be added or maybe one deleted to, again, ensure a broad-based and diverse representation on the board and an active level of participation?
Yep, and I completely agree with that. I think the emphasis was put on fully staffing this board so that they themselves would be able to submit those recommendations, which includes various other aspects of the code. But I have stressed to them the understanding of maybe expanding or the inclusion of other memberships as well. If there weren't any other questions or concerns, are we comfortable to make a motion?
So are we moving forward with the recommendation from the president of the board?
Yep, so I'd be proceeding with the recommendation with regards to adding the 30-day stipulation, and then is everyone in agreement with also including specific language addressing the inclusion of an alternate?
Let me
Oh, Mr. Mayor, sorry.
The process would call for calling for a public hearing. So if you call for a public hearing, get the draft legislation, or if anybody has any suggestions or modifications to it, it would still be really 2 weeks to modify it in some manner, or you may get some comment at the public hearing that may shift your thinking one way or the other.
That's fair. All right, so a motion to call for public hearing?
Yeah, so we'll move that.
Second.
Motion to call for
Second.
public hearing.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any other items to follow the public safety committee? Hearing none, we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thank you. Call to order Finance Committee, and the first item is amendment to budget line. Ms. Carver is not here.
He's,
Aaron's going to do that.
stepping in.
Good evening. This is a pretty simple one for you tonight. We're just requesting a line item for zoning officer. We're going to move it back from the code enforcement to development. Also, excuse me, from the code enforcement office to the development office. It's just an easy switch. Originally, it was in development and was moved down to the code enforcement office. So we're just switching it back.
This just reflects actual staffing and is revenue neutral, just moving from one position to the other, or one location to the other.
Where it belongs to, yeah. Any other questions? Come in. Seeing none, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
The next item is called for public hearing, creating a special assessment district on a portion of North College Street. This was an oversight, and we're trying to put this in place. Any questions?
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next item is just a reminder with Central Parkway Sidewalk Improvement Program. The public hearing is scheduled for next Monday, February 26th at 7 p.m., room 209. The next item is BCJS Discovery Grant money. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is money that when the rules were changed on Discovery, going back 3 years ago now, the state provides money to the counties to offset the increased cost. We get some of that money from the county to offset our cost within the police department in terms of putting together Discovery. And while I appreciate this money, but ask the council to approve it, I'm not sure it actually covers our real cost in it. But we appreciate any help we can get.
This just covered the salary, not the benefit, so we'll have to pick up the...
And some of the actual time that's spent too. Some of this can be fairly demanding in terms of...
Go ahead, please.
I have a question. I hope it's not putting the chief on the spot, but could you just tell us more about what this Discovery Plan is? No?
Yes, for the employees, so
If you don't mind, please.
Are you talking about the grant or the actual process and the workload?
Yeah, kind of like, just, I mean, the grant's fine, but I would like to know I would like to know kind of what it covers. Will you join us?
Join us on it, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this would cover partial salaries for 2 employees that we currently have, an IPS 3 and a clerical aide that work mainly preparing stuff for the DA's office. So they review body-worn camera footage, they provide that. and they help get records ready for prosecution purposes.
So these are just city employees?
They are currently city employees now, yes.
They are currently city
Yes, ma'am.
employees? Okay. That's my question.
Any other questions? Thank you. Seeing none, may I have a motion?
Move it.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next item is the Davis Hill property lease agreement. Ms. Porterfield.
Thank you. I brought this up for discussion, actually started during the budget season in '23, bringing it back again we passed resolution 2015, that's how long ago this was, and we raised the rent at that time from $50 to $500. So I am asking that we, once again, look at increasing the rent. It is a source of revenue for the city. We're going to be having revenue shortfall according to the mayor in 2025. So the council agreed collectively that we would be looking at revenue throughout. Two of the major points that we were looking at during the budget discussion or having concerns about were waste and sewer and water. So I just wanted to have this discussion to bring forth, to once again have this discussion to bring forth about increasing the rent. We have had an increase in, and I can provide you the information, there has been an increase in taxes that we're paying to the town of Niskayuna for this particular property. So considering, all of the things that we're showing increase, that we would also consider increasing this to, it will not necessarily cover everything, but to at least be offset this cost. So I'm putting before the council that we increase the rent. There were some conversations about how much. Willing to definitely have that discussion. I know there was an amount that you didn't mean but that we should take a look at increasing it. As I said, it was 50, it went to 500, and it's been 9 years. The city has had increased costs in order for this property, and so I would like to see us to increase that rent. So, yes, Ms. Patrick.
Go ahead, please.
I'd like to stand by what I said at the last meeting, which is that I think that I'd like to know more about what the original terms of the job offer were. That, in other words, if this person was hired with the understanding that they would be residing in this house, providing services at that property, that I just feel that, it's sort of going against the original terms of the job agreement, if there was a letter of agreement or a contract or whatever. So I just want to put that out there again for consideration.
So,
We'll just have to find out if there is a letter of agreement or if there is any
I just feel that,
lease agreement. We asked for that.
Yes, there was a lease agreement, and it was last done in 2017, 2016. And the particulars of that is verifying calibrations of water level. I'm just giving examples here. Inspect all vents and vent screens to ensure their integrity. Every 6 months, operate all valves from the fully opened or closed positions to the opposite position as appropriate, and visually inspect also, at least on a monthly basis, visually inspect the property, do a walk around. So what perhaps you have to find a benchmark in what's the rent. Perhaps the city assessor's office can help you with that, or perhaps a real estate agent who's familiar with single-family residence rentals. Then you have a benchmark, and after that, having that benchmark, then you can quantify as best as you can the work that's done at that, and fact that into your rental agreement, having physical presence there at the reservoir. So I think maybe get the city assessor if they're comfortable with doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Just looking at the house, not their property, just a rental. How many bathrooms, how many bedrooms, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Or a real estate agent assessor who's familiar with rental properties to go in, take a look. This is what a house like this would go for, notwithstanding the property.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a benchmark, and then on that benchmark, then you can work those other intangibles down as far as having a person on site. What's the value of that?
Right.
and then having the physical work that has to be done on a daily basis, or does that still need to be done? And then we can factor out a new lease agreement that I would recommend be redone and reissued on a yearly basis. So this way, on a yearly basis, the council always knows what's going on, and then you're not looking at a larger increase. This way you're keeping tabs on it rather than trying to play going back in time. So that's my recommendation.
It's Mr. Mulligan's committee.
Can you share with council the lease agreement that you
Yeah.
have? If you don't mind, email it to all of us.
Yes.
I would appreciate it, thanks.
Yes.
So,
And-
please.
And I'm going to share the information about the tax, I think you should get this one. About
So I'll provide that, I'll provide the lease agreement, so this, you'll have an idea of how much, what sort of work has to be done. But I just think that maybe the next time we're here, to have a figure, and based off of that figure, you have this, and then you all
Sorry.
can come up with an agreement you're all happy with.
Okay, thank you.
And I did pass out the taxes that we paid over the years since 2015, actually. So I just want to make sure that you have all the information as we're making these decisions, that all the information's there. I'm sorry. Sure. So, and to Ms. Patrick's point, there's no, it wasn't a term of employment because the lease that Mr. O'Brien is speaking about was signed with the previous tenant. So it wasn't because of their job. So the previous tenant, the agreement was signed. So it seems like an employee, whomever lived there, it was by the tenancy, not the job.
I guess I'm wondering if there was some sort of letter of agreement upon offering the job to the person who's in the position currently, if that letter of agreement said that part of the terms of the employment, like any of us that would get a salary letter, from an employer, would indicate that part of the terms of that employment was the ability to live in this house for this particular
What
lease
we're going
agreement.
on is what is in the lease agreement, as far as that's what we have, as far as, it's usually a water department employee because of the fact that it's a water department property, and the person needs to have some sort of familiarization with that type of, so.
So it's not an employee benefit necessarily, but
So there was nothing in a letter of agreement upon hire, I guess is what I'm asking.
Not that I'm aware of.
So I want to say, like, I agree strongly with us being able to kind of wrap our head around and kind of quantify what is happening at the property and really assign a real value to that before moving forward. But I would just kind of caution us if we step outside to get like kind of a more real estate agent, because I think any real estate agent is operating kind of in the free market, and this isn't necessarily a free market situation if it's not a city employee that's filling a certain situation. It's not like we would be looking to rent that property to anyone else. So I just think that maybe the city assessor would be just my best thought around would be the person to do that.
I just threw those out as.
Yeah.
oh, it's not my kids.
Go ahead, please.
Oh, thank you. Yes, and some of the emails that have gone back and forth between myself and you and forward them on to the council, I did suggest, that first of all, if we were going to assess as a council the cost of, that we'd like to raise this rent, I would personally like a tour, if it's going to be up to us. I'd like a tour of this property, just because I'd like to see it and know why I'm raising the rent or not raising the rent. Secondly, I did suggest if we're not qualified, like Council O'Brien put through, that should we have a real estate agent or someone who specializes in rental property before we even do that. The Department of Development has come up in these emails, so I'm not sure, would they be the ones deciding some type of rental increase? I mean, also what's come up is Niagara Mohawk, the electric bill, National Grid. Yes, the city pays that bill, but then we get a credit back from them every year because of the solar panels up there. Again, we really don't want to keep this personal. We want to keep it about the property, but yet there's been statements made that the employee that lives there can more than enough afford this property. And, it's been put out there how much this individual makes. And again, we want to keep it more businesslike than personal. So I'd just like to bring those things up. And as far as, there's been an amount of $1,000 put out there, from $500 to $1,000. Not that I don't think $1,000 is absurd. It's not absurd in today's rent, but 100% increase on the $500 to $1,000, I think is absurd. And any one of us that would take a phone call from any individual in the city whose landlord wanted to raise their rent 100%, we'd be fighting for them. So again, we have to think of us as the city and revenue coming in, but we also have to think of what we would do for a lot of residents in the city. So
That's not me, Mr. Rivera.
Go ahead, please.
Sorry, so I'd say I was questioning your inclusion of some of the language, because I'd say up until that point right now, you would be the first person that brought that up at this meeting. So that was my first question.
Okay.
The second response to your comment of $1,000, I would say that clarification would have credibility if that market rent was significantly under the threshold. So I would say from the residents that I've interacted with, it is very difficult to get an $1,000 studio. So I would say based on my experience, which is not that of which of the city assessor, so I want to thank Mr. O'Brien for adding his input and feedback. I would say to myself, I don't know what value seeing the property would have for me. My understanding of including that individual from the assessor's office is they would be best suited with their background and professional wherewithal to recommend a price range to us. And then, although I am partially not in agreement with kind of evaluating some of the additional work that's done on the property, due to the fact that if it's truly city-owned, we have departments and staffing to do that work. So I think we're then looking at duplication of resources. And then as we're evaluating how to continue maintaining this property, I believe the mayor was highlighting that there may be some abilities to incorporate some technological assist. So I think as we look at properly reviewing the functionality of this property, which I understand there are certain duties and aspects that are needed, I agree with that. But I think in the year 2024, I think we might be able to automate some of those outside of if you need a person to walk the property, like that's understood. So I think there are some ways to kind of appreciate the services that have been rendered thus far, but evaluate if there's a way to apply some of that smart city numbers that we highlight and a means to kind of do some additional savings as well.
Go ahead, please.
So I did speak to Mr. O'Brien regarding your suggestion that the council walk through and you can articulate what you
I think, as Mr. Williams says, I think the value of this, you're going in there for, evaluation, and the individual is a tenant of that's his house, and I just think it would be best for the assessor to take a look at the type of property, assess it from just an arm's length transaction, if you will, how many rooms are in there, how many bathrooms, et cetera, and give you a value rather than going through it, because I don't know what, it's certainly city property, you can do it, but I don't know what value that, this is not like going through you're going through somebody's home as if you will, as the landlord.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just put that out there as the request of the tenant would like us to personally see. And I'd like to know if any of my other council members would like to view the property as well.
Well, as I said, yeah. I've given my recommendation to the tenants.
I appreciate it.
So I've seen it from the outside, and so I don't necessarily feel like I need to go inside someone's home. And again, I personally don't have that. It's not within my purview to be able to look and say, well, this is valued that. It just isn't. The only thing I'd be able to look at is the paint on the walls or how it's kept, and I don't think there's necessarily value in that. So I have to agree. That's why I raised the point to Mr. O'Brien when it was brought up, that what is the best way, and so he's clearly articulated that.
So I think we should maybe stick to Mr. O'Brien, our recommendation to have the assessor office look into this, or an outside agency look into it and bring that information to us as a council here, rather than us going there individually or collectively and try to make a determination and then come back and vote on the said recommendation that we're doing. So I think the recommendation from Ms. Bryan is the right path for us to choose. And let's do that and get the information back to us. And with regards to raising something 100%, in this year budget, we raised commercial water, sewer, and garbage 100%. So we did raise 100% on some fees.
Yeah, again, I just think it's really important that we understand and are able to put a number to, what's happening, what's happening operationally on the property now. I think that's something that we obviously needs to go into kind of whatever formula we're using to figure out what we should be receiving. I mean, I don't need to see the property personally, I'm sure it's no mini mansion up there, but I just think that we just at least want to let the people who are most qualified to do so do that, and then we can factor in what services are being provided at that given moment. So.
Go ahead, please.
And just to clarify my point, like I have zero interest. I trust that our city assessors are best equipped to render us a threshold, and then we'll evaluate that accordingly. And then also, I just want to kind of take a point. My position is not taking into consideration the person. I think during our budget season, or budget discussions, which were very lengthy, we left that with an understanding of evaluating other revenue lines within the city. So I think looking at this individually, yes, it might be a minor return of funds back to the city should we choose to increase the rents. But I think collectively, and that's the conversation I'm truly looking for, I think there needs to be more of an emphasis placed on capturing some of those additional revenue lines to eat into that. I guess I won't look at it negative, just look at the gap before next year's budget to include having our quarterly reviews. So this just happens to be the first item that we're discussing, and it will not be the last.
Go ahead, please.
So in that, we talked about revenue and so I am going to just tell you that I took an opportunity to look at the revenue lines, and for the past at least 3 years, we have not been getting the full revenue on that line. So just want to, we talked about it, so it was brought up by various people, so just want to make sure that, we need to rectify that. And I don't know if that's because there's some agreement with the city. I don't know the details of that, but.
That's been adjusted.
He said that's been adjusted.
Mr. Mayor says that was adjusted. Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead, please.
No, I just want to clarify that we, need to keep the focus as to like this being a city property and not about a person or a personnel issue or anything of that matter. I think if we go down that road, then we do need to enter into an executive session. I think that if it was for making our decisions based on anything personal or anything that we think is outside of a realm of our scope, then I just would caution us not to do that, and I definitely will be participating in that.
I think the discussion so far has been around revenue, income, and all of that. So, and we're clear about using the term tenant.
I think you were in our, go ahead, sorry.
Independent of this discussion, appreciate the council's interest. If you have not been to that site, you should be to the site. First of all, it's also part of our critical infrastructure, so in terms of homeland security, it's rated differently. There's a 711 megawatt solar facility that's been installed there. It's also an integral part of Town Niskayuna's water system and some of the communications equipment for public safety, not only for the city, but throughout the county is located there. So that at some point should go there, just be aware of it, and understand the significance of it.
Go ahead, please.
So does Niskayuna, I know it's in Niskayuna, so does Niskayuna take any part of the outdoor maintenance? Are they responsible for any of that?
No. And we're challenging the assessment on some of our property and we always look forward to working with our sister communities. Sometimes I'm not sure we're getting the best deal and someone we're moving through formal proceedings on.
Well, in the first year, it was like $8,600 increase, I think back in 15 or 16, and then it's been less since then, but we're looking at, over those past 9 years, $15,000 increase. So for me, it's about, we're looking at the increases that we're getting, and we need to step up the revenue on that, and also taking into consideration what the market rent is now, which is pretty significant, probably sometimes 3 times that, or even for I don't know what the inside looks like, but for an apartment and not a house. So again, this is really about revenue and costs that the city is incurring, and how we can increase our revenue to close that very large budget gap that has been, that the mayor's brought forward, but that we're going to have. And I think that's why it's important that we do this starting now and not wait until we're sitting around the table again in October, because that was so much fun. That
I look forward to it again.
So that's why I want to bring this forward and to make that consideration. So, Mr. O'Brien, would you be asking the assessor to do that, or how?
Yeah, our office will ask the assessor to do that.
Okay.
And then come back with a figure next council meeting, with a figure from which to work from, and then from there we'll proceed.
Okay.
And then we'll draft the lease at the appropriate time.
And the current lease that you have, you're going to email it to the...
Yes, the lease, that last lease, that was, yes, for your situational awareness, yes, we'll send that to you.
But just to be clear, the lease that we're going to get is with the
Yes,
prior
yes,
tenant
yes,
there.
yes,
We don't
yes.
have a current lease.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That is
Oh,
correct.
Okay. Thank you.
You're just sending it so we have a look at the language.
Just for the
Okay.
language, I mean, for
Recommendation.
the duties and responsibilities would be good for reference for you all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mudabar.
Any other questions? So we'll hold this for 2 weeks? Okay, any other item before finance? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to call to order government operations. We have 2 items on the agenda. The first is the home rule request to support Senate and Assembly Bills A7058, S7409 to increase the membership of the Special District Operations and Development Committee. President Porterfield.
Thank you. So the board from the DSAD brought this forward to us and asked that, well, they actually went first to the Assemblyman Santa Barbara and the senator, and to ask that they be able to increase their board. And they bypassed the process of asking for the home rule. So they went there, and they already got their bill numbers. But the legislative office informed them that in order to do this, they need to come back to the council and ask for the home rule. So they reached out to us to see if we would do that, if we're in agreement with them increasing their board. And what I was told is the same thing that many boards have said, they're having difficulty achieving their quorum. So they want to be able to increase their board in order to be able to make a quorum and to move forward with their meetings. So I'm bringing this for the council to support a home rule request to the Senate and the Assembly for the bills that are there to increase the membership of the DSAD.
Questions, comments? Gentlemen?
I'll move this. President support.
Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, our next agenda item is appointment to the Ethics Board, and that's all President Porterfield.
Yeah. So this came before the council once before. It moved forward on the agenda, out of the committee onto the agenda, and there was a roll call request at the committee meeting, at the council meeting, and so since there was no second, the item failed because it had been removed from the consent agenda. So I'm bringing it back again, and I just want to again articulate that's another board that it's made up of 5, and right now only 3 of the, it's supposed to be 5, but right now there's only 4 people, and only 3 of the 4 are able to make the meetings because of health issues. And so what that means basically is anything that comes before them, every single person has to agree, because 2 to 1 will not pass anything because the board is supposed to be 5. So I know that one person that's on the board is going to probably be out, and my understanding is for a while. So I was bringing forth the name of Christopher Marney, who, as we all know, who was formerly an employee here, and his resume is before you, and for us to consider this individual to be moved forward to be a member of the Ethics Board.
Any questions or concerns?
So I wanted to take a moment. These were comments that I withheld from our last council meeting, but I take pleasure in the opportunity to address Mr. Marnie, who's in the room right now. Over the course of my political career in the city, I have only known for Mr. Marnie to have served in his capacity as Deputy Corporation Counsel with the utmost distinction and professionalism, and I think that is none short than what we would expect from anyone functioning in that role. To date, I haven't heard of any issues or complaints regarding the manner in which he practiced being a steward of our city code, but to me, he personally would provide unbiased feedback on how to conduct my actions as a city council member, and it is with that understanding and those interactions that I believe he would be best suited to apply an unbiased and objective presence onto this board. So I would ask that if anyone had any concerns with the individual, that you would just make them known at this point, just due to his resume and his community involvement. Also, I don't know why anyone would be opposed to having a credible individual join this board to help support.
Questions? Anyone want to add on to that? Express any concerns, questions?
Seeing none, I'll move this. Do we have to move this, or it's already?
No, we don't have to. He says, well, we do have to move it, yes. We should move it because it fell off the agenda.
Yeah,
So we're going to have to move it again.
So,
Just put it back in there.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move it.
I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, no more business to report about operations. I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
We adjourn.
Thank you. I'd like to reconvene city development and planning. We had originally had 11 items on the agenda. Ms. Carver needed to go on to her training, and so therefore she's left. So we have 10 items remaining. And the first one is to, I don't see Mr. Wallen in the room now. Are you filling in for Mr.
President,
You're filling in for Mr. Wallen?
on those issues, yes, I should be able to handle any questions the council has.
Okay, so item number 2 is to authorize the issue of a revocable permit number 681 to Pierce Renewables for a sign that overhang the city's right-of-way, 155 Erie
And I
Boulevard.
think the council has the information on this, what we call a fairly standard application for signage in the city where it goes into the city right away and asking for a revocable permit to be issued.
Any questions? Oh, your hand's not up. That's just like putting your hand on your face.
I'll move
All right.
this.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 3 is another revocable permit to number 682 Myler Restaurant for a sign that overhangs the city's right-of-way at 500 State Street.
It's the old Bank of America building.
But I thought those were apartments.
This is on the first floor. Where this sign is going to go, where the business is going to be, apartments are stairs.
So,
the Citizens Bank?
Oh, this is not, no, 500 is Bank of America.
Yeah, this is
so it's the other side of the street.
the new ortho.
No,
Isn't it?
right,
No.
it's the Ortho.
Yeah, the new ortho.
Oh.
Ortho New York's going to have a restaurant on the ground floor?
Yep.
Okay, I guess it'll be easy. You can't be late for lunch. Come back from lunch.
Oh, so this is not the restaurant that's going into where the old Citizens Bank was. Okay.
All right,
And
so,
it's- From, in the package, you can see the signage close to the corner, but
Oh, yeah.
the property line, for all practical purposes, is right at the
okay.
sidewalk. So
Oh, that's interesting. Entertain a motion?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
the next one
item number 4.
is work on the contractors building the pump station and the golf course, and this is the electrical work and upgrades there, and it's in budget, and I want to say this is going to finish the building off, but I'm not sure if there might still be some other work on it.
So this is within the ARPA allocation that we've already provided to this, to the golf course?
This,
I'm gonna,
no, this is out of the, oh, yes, this is for the irrigation pump house. So this is to upgrade the electricity. So yes, you're right.
so it's already covered.
There is some other work that's coming out of the golf course budget. But this electrical contract will upgrade the, outline three-phase wiring to be able to handle the new equipment for the pumps.
Okay. Any questions?
I'll move it.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next item is to review the moratorium on smoke and vape shops. Ms. DeToro.
Yes, thank you. So everyone received Corporation Counsel Garage, did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Garage, yes. The moratorium that she proposed and put forward. I had several opportunities to read it over, and I just had a few questions myself as far as the implementation of zoning, and we are working on that continuously.
That will be, once, yes, we've got to think, yes, that will be a priority, because what you're asking for in this particular legislation is a 90-day period for us to get that zoning ordinance amended. And that means going into the various sections of the zoning code and putting in the definitions and the language that we need in that code. So yeah, that's, this is just the moratorium, so holding things in place for the period of time. And then the follow-on piece of legislation that will come before you at a later date will be the actual zoning code amendments. So that will require a public hearing as well, because we're amending the zoning code. So that will be being worked on to get that, what you're intending to get into the zoning code. This is just a moratorium, so you can see just by the language of this moratorium, it goes for a number of pages. So,
Yes, yes.
Right.
So the code has to be addressed.
Ms. Patrick?
So in your estimation, is 90 days enough, or should we go back to the original 6-month
I will
moratorium?
report back to you in 60 days. I will give myself a 60-day deadline, and then if I feel that I can't get this to you in that time period, I will report back to you. But that is my goal, is to get it to you in that time period. And I'm not, but 30 days out, I'll report back to you.
Okay. But, so there is some framework that was already set. So are you able to like build upon that? Because most of us met with the former
Right now,
Corporation Counsel.
I know that there's an overlay map that was produced. Now we have to put the overlay map and your intents into the code itself.
Okay.
So I've seen the overlay maps, but it's putting that into the various sections of the code.
Okay. And my further question is, so this moratorium is also on any cannabis properties, businesses that want to open?
It's all that. That was what your public hearing was when you had the public hearing. This is the resolution that you all had back in August. You had a public hearing back in August for the implementation for the moratorium legislation, and then you paused implementing the moratorium legislation.
Yes, Mr. Barlow.
Yeah, so how I understood the moratorium was for vape and smoke shops, and I didn't know that our original moratorium did not include cannabis shops, to my
I
recollection.
don't think we have the ability.
And I know that Mr. O'Brien is definitely kind of, I appreciate the work that you're doing here, trying to piece all this together, because I think that there was a lot of moving pieces around this and a lot of different discussions, so I could see how that could definitely, because I knew at one point that was discussed, so I think that I could see why I would be here now, right?
Because we're talking unregulated smoke shops, vape shops, tobacco and vape consumption.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yep.
That doesn't include.
Yeah, not to include cannabis, so yeah.
Cannabis shop, yeah.
Because I see,
And,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you want that amended, the cannabis retail, we'll take a look at that, because I'm looking at the original legislation. The original first paragraph of the whereas in this, it says cannabis retail, consumption and uses. So we can delete that, we can delete those references for final consideration for next Monday. To delete that, we can work that and delete those references in this legislation, and then give you a clean moratorium if you so wish.
Wait, Mr. Toro had her hand up.
Yeah, I'm sorry, cannabis consumption, it's not, that's just using, it's not selling. I'm not familiar with that terminology. And then I do have something under number 4, enactment of temporary moratorium. Item number 2, no previously submitted applications for building permits and land use. So I was under the impression that if something had already been submitted, that was gonna go forward, that could go forward. I would like them to stop, but.
Yeah, me too, though. I was kind of,
Well, I think.
Okay, wait, Ms. Patrick had her hand up first, so I'll let her
well,
go.
I noticed that as well when I was reading this, and I actually would be in favor of that, but I didn't think that we could do that either. But I thought that was cool, that I would like to see that included. And then I think in terms of the cannabis, that it also does include the paraphernalia. In other words, like if, pipes and that kind of thing, we could include in this. But it was my understanding as well that we couldn't go against what the state was doing with cannabis, although this does say something, I wasn't sure if I was reading it correctly, but there was something in here that did look like we were able to do that.
No, what it does in that whereas section of, re-looking at that, it's just saying we do have the flexibility of smoke shops, which is, regarding cannabis retail. That's what that's saying there.
So we can't do it for the cannabis retail, right? I mean, that was my original understanding, was that we couldn't touch cannabis retail. We can touch cannabis paraphernalia.
Right.
But it looks like we're only touching cannabis consumption. I'm sorry, it looks like we're only in a couple of different spots. And then on page
Number
4 of 7 at the very top, it touches on cannabis consumption again. So I guess what we don't want are people in these smoke and vape shops, kind of like smoking. Is that consumption in there? We're not allowing that. We don't want that to happen.
Mr. Rivera, did you have a point?
No, I think when we discussed this previously, the cannabis, we should consider removing the words wherever it is with regards to cannabis, if it's consumption or paraphernalia, because I don't think we initially talked about that. I don't think we can touch that because of state regulation.
Yeah, because if you take a look at the moratorium section, it says no new applications for vape shops, smoke shops, tobacco shops, and that's where the moratorium is.
That's exactly it. So
that's where the moratorium language is
So we need to remove anything that is directing us towards cannabis in this draft here. At the same time, we did talk about the application that is in-house. I don't think we can put a stop on that legally. We have to treat them case-by-case basis. And then Charlie had mentioned that too the last time we discussed. Case-by-case basis to see the application, if it's worth it, and if the Department of Development will move forward with the application on file.
So we looked into that. So if the council were to pass this would be an ordinance, and so you would be effectively amending the city code. So you would, if you pass this or similar language as a moratorium, then you could stop anything. You could stop applications that are currently on file from proceeding.
Oh, that's fine. So
As of the date of filing or the date of the ordinance?
The effective date.
The effective date.
Yeah.
So the one on file, we can't stop those.
We can stop anything that comes after we approve.
Right.
approve
Any
this.
new ones.
So that's what we're talking about, the ones
Well,
on
no,
file
that's
that we
not what this
have.
says.
No, let me, it says, and no previous submitted. So if they're already submitted, this is saying they get stopped.
No, we can't. I don't think so.
Well, that's what this says.
That's clearly what this says.
We can, yeah,
Yes.
it would, I'm sorry, it would be suspended based on this new legislation. You're amending the city code by passing this.
So we go retroactively.
It can, yes.
Okay. And the ordinance, we're gonna put that in this ordinance to go retroactive to the application that is on file?
We can make that more clear.
Is that?
It's already in there, I think, but we will,
We can look at it.
we can clarify that language.
Yeah, we might want to clarify that if that's the case, because that way we cover ourselves.
I mean,
And not an open end, if you don't mind, please.
No.
So that way we're covered anyway.
good.
No, we can clarify.
Because my understanding, we discussed it prior to this, several moratorium that we can't deal with the application on file, we just have to deal with the new ones that is coming in.
Mr. Williams has his hand up.
And I would say it's important to make that distinction, so if there are any individuals who are owning or in the process of getting their application reviewed for a smoke or vape shop, I think the discussion around a moratorium, I think we were all in agreement, we're saying stop. So I think stop a little bit, essentially is not addressing the issue. So I do remember Mr. Colden previously saying that if they were in that review process, but thank you for the clarification. I think regardless of what state you're in that review process, we're saying stop, allow us the time to review the corridors or the overlays, and then we will reopen when we are better suited to address some of the issues that our community members have identified.
So I just want to make sure that, it says cannabis, so I just want to make sure that legally that's something we can do, because smoke shop and cannabis, I remember they said it was like similar uses. I want to make sure that we can separate that out and not have it in there, so that
Okay.
we're not having any difficulty regarding that. And and also, I'll leave it with you. And so also, so for this moratorium, we actually have to we can't just pass the moratorium, we have to actually change our code. We can't pass the moratorium with that, because that kicks the process down the road a little bit.
Well, I mean, what this moratorium does means you want to look at your code. You don't have to do anything during the code. I mean, because you may decide not to do it, but you're pausing things because you're thinking about amending it. We can't, the final product of the legislative process may not pass, not everybody will be happy with it. I don't know, it's unforeseen. But the idea is to stop it and then allow the legislative process to go through and then finally adopt it. You'll have another public hearing on the amending of the zoning ordinance.
So that's why I wanted to clarify that, because Ms. Barash said that this would be like amending the code, so it's really two separate things. It's doing the moratorium, and then if we wanted to change all the language in the code, then that's a separate
That's
process.
a whole separate thing, and that's a whole another public hearing, because it's anytime you deal with the zoning code or the building code or whatever, you need to have a public hearing. So yes, so there'll be another public hearing once we get that legislation together, and it'll be ready for a public hearing for review and comment.
Thank you. Mr. Farley? Oh, I'm sorry, did I overlook you? Ms. Patrick?
I can go after Mr. Farley.
Mr. Farley?
Thank you. So I guess my question around, so it reads no previously submitted applications for building permits and land use approvals for vape shops, smoke shops, etc. I guess my question is, if someone has put in their application and they have already got approval, but haven't maybe opened their vape shop yet, are we saying that even after their approval, we're saying that
if they're approved, if they've gotten their certificate, then they can move forward if it's the issue of whether they've submitted an application or not. If we've approved it,
If it's been approved, then it would move forward, but this would halt.
anyone that's in the
further
application
processing.
process?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Just to
Mr.
follow up on that, because
Yeah.
a couple of months ago, we had a enforcement process was going on, code enforcement with the mayor, and that was a long drawn-out process where they are submitting their application, they are submitting paperwork, and trying to come in compliance. So we're saying that all that effort is going to come to a screeching halt, because they are in the process, they are maybe 80%, 75%.
I mean, based
To
on
get
this,
approval,
based on this
this is gonna put a
particular
stop.
language, it would. If you would like something different, we can amend this language.
Yeah, because we have a process that's ongoing. There's an enforcement already ongoing from code enforcement to bring these shops in compliance. So by putting that in there, we'll stop all that effort. Or bringing those business that was there, for instance, last year, trying to get themselves in compliance.
Okay, so that was prior to my tenure here.
Yes.
So when you say bring them into compliance, you mean?
They open without
Without
any
a
certificate of use, and they're in the process of
Oh, I see what
getting
you're
all
saying.
that documentation and
Okay.
getting inspection and the whole.
Okay,
So we may want to look at that report.
Like a date. Have a date.
Ms. Patrick, did you have your hand up?
Submitted by.
we can put a particular date by, like a cutoff date.
Yeah, we can look at the last
Do a
on
look
there.
back.
I can forward it to you, but yes, we have a copy
Sure.
of the last of the most updated version from
Okay.
code enforcement. So that way you can track it by the dates and
Okay.
anything to that extent. And beyond that can be cut off.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
All right, Ms. Patrick, Mr. O'Brien, did you want to add something? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
just, I'm hearing a lot, we're hearing a lot of tweaks to this.
Uh-huh.
So I think the best practice would probably be, we'll take your comments, we'll retweak this again, and then we'll resubmit it back to you for, a final review based on your comments you've provided here and for us to research some other aspects that you all brought up this evening.
Okay, Ms. Patrick?
Well, if somebody is open illegally, I'm okay with them not being able to keep going with the process. I think we should shut them down. Is that what you're saying? You're saying
No,
they still have the chance to continue being open?
Code enforcement is bringing them into compliance, and that was the document that was shared
Yeah,
to us.
no.
So we need to know where they are in terms of that, and then there should be a cutoff period. As to say exactly, this is the date that it's cut off. Anybody beyond that, they have to wait until 6 months moratorium and follow the new zoning rules.
So sometimes, oftentimes people submit for certificates of use and they're denied and they have to resubmit. So there may be businesses that have pending applications for certificates of use that will ultimately be denied. But if this were to pass, if you were to pass this, they wouldn't be able to resubmit. So, again, we can change the language, but we just need to understand what language you're looking for specifically. Like, what's your intent? Something like that.
Mr. Toro?
Just in the updated sheet that Mr. Mudavaren did provide to us, I'd say out of how many were on there, I don't think any of them in 6 months have even bothered to try to come into compliance, maybe one or two.
Yeah, there are a few of them. They're still
Just
working.
a couple, but otherwise, we really haven't heard from any of them.
Mayor?
And there is a wide variance in that where people have opened and haven't followed any of the rules, and then the Corporation Council points out there's some that have opened, they may have technical issues or paperwork isn't quite to what we'd like, and so we try and work with them to bring it up to a level of compliance. And the only other thing we'd submit to you, you're talking about a 90-day moratorium here, is actually pick a date. Is it 90 days from the day the council passed it? Is it 90 days that the mayor signs it? Is it 90 days when it goes back to the clerk to be filed? Do the end of May or maybe the 1st of June. I think that would be a little bit over 90 days, but something so it's a clearer reference so that internally for our controls and just the public knowing what the deadlines are.
Okay. Mr. Farley?
Yeah, I just think that giving deference to Corporation Council, I think that their idea around taking, the new information that some of us have shared here and giving them an opportunity to research any issues that have been raised and kind of to clean it up a little bit and present it back to us, for lack of a better term. I think that I would just agree with that course of action.
So it looks like that's what's going to happen at this point. So, and this is just generally, I think that we should be looking at all certificate of occupancy, not just these particular ones, and with, is everyone in compliance? Because I'm not bad, I'm not going to casino, but as Mayor mentioned, but I'm sure that, I'm more than sure that there are some businesses out there that don't have a certificate of occupancy. So as we're talking about, I know we're focusing on this just one particular type of business, but that relates to all businesses. And so as we're doing that enforcement or just talking to people and say, bringing, you need to bring this up to code and have a certificate of occupancy, which generates into revenue. So I think that we should be looking at all of them. And I know that's something for code enforcement, but I just really want to make sure that we put that out there, that we're just not focusing on one particular business, but that everyone, the same rule applies in terms of certificate of occupancy.
So I think we're just at this moment talking specifically about those types of businesses because that's what the moratorium deals with. I can say, in Corporation Counsel's office that we are reviewing certificates of use and we apply the same. We look at it the same way under the suspend our review.
Well, really what I'm talking about is code enforcement, making sure that they get to you. That's really, so everyone has one. Whatever the process is, whatever the beginning process is, that we need to make sure that we're engaging in that.
Sure.
Mr. Mudavarian, are you moving your hand around or just saying hi?
No. So we will take into consideration all the comments over here and then put them into the draft and then send them back to us in regards to looking at the application that we have on file, the enforcement that is currently in place from code enforcement in terms of looking at the timeline when this application was filed, and look at the draft to kind of cut that off at that point in time.
Yes, and like the mayor said, we try to work with businesses to get them into compliance. However, there may be here and there, if their application is denied and they have to resubmit, it may be after this date and they may not be able to for the 90 days.
Well, when we say deny, we can deny for a simple letter from the state or deny a simple letter from the county, so we have to look into those considerations.
Yeah, I guess I'm saying if their application for a certificate of use is not sufficient, if it doesn't meet all the requirements set forth in the code, sometimes we're able to have them rectify it, sometimes based on, it depends on what the particular issue is. Right. Some issues cannot be rectified in the current application, then they have to resubmit. So I'm just saying that some of the businesses that you're referring to, I don't know, I'd have to go back and look at everything that's pending, but if they were to be denied, if it's not something that can be corrected in the current application, it could be after this moratorium takes effect and then they would not be able.
Okay, so like if we can just add that into the draft, if it cannot be corrected, then they automatically get denied.
Then, okay, then yes. Okay.
Yeah. And I can share that report that we got from the mayor.
Sure.
Okay.
Mr. Farley, did you have a hand up?
No.
Yeah.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yeah, just a final clarification. That this moratorium is dealing with building permits and certificates of occupancy, certificates of use and land use approvals limited to smoke shops, vape shops, and tobacco or vape consumption businesses, as the state as they have no statewide regulation. So just to clarify that point, this moratorium is, as you all brought out, it's just dealing with those areas, and that's what it's dealing with. And then we'll tweak it as far as end date, tweak it on certificate, application dates for people who've put their applications in, and we'll bring it back to you.
Okay. Are there more questions? Mr. Williams, yes.
Or I just had a comment, and I wanted to intentionally say, like, with respect to the no previously submitted applications, I do find myself in agreement with Ms. Patrick and Ms. Toro, and I think the conversation of us even discussing a moratorium highlights that we are no longer able to effectively enforce this. So I think saying that we are going to stop the opening of more vapor smoke shops, including the other areas, but then allowing some additionals to work their way through the review process. I think we're sending two different messages to the community. Even with the process of the law office reviewing it and giving us revisions, that is additional time for people to come into compliance. So I would just urge anyone listening to heed that we are discussing this and to take that into consideration. Hopefully those individuals are talking to you. But I think ultimately, is this going to affect certain businesses? Absolutely. But we're not saying no forever. It's just no for the 90 days for us to review it. If that makes sense.
So I just want to make sure that we're clear that, so, because I'm like, a little concerned, and if we can, if there's people already in process, if we're on good legal standing, quite frankly, to be able to do that when they've gone through the process. The last thing we want to do is pass something that brings us, somebody brings up a lawsuit, they can't do this because, and all these reasons. So I want to make sure we're on good legal standing. I do have a concern that people who are in the process, not that I'm not advocating for this particular type of business, but I also want to make sure that we are not targeting and going against this type of business specifically. So, God bless you. So if we're, so I have some concerns that people in the process, that we just shut them down like that because they went into the process with the understanding that, you need to do ABC. So I just really want to be clear that we're okay doing that when people are already in the process. It's extremely important that we're doing that. Mr. Farley?
I want to say I share your concern around that. I think that listening to what our community's been telling us and what we can see, moving around our city ourselves, we've seen an influx of these businesses kind of popping up, and a lot of them are not in compliance. But I do, and I'm definitely not advocating based on this business, based on the information that's been shared with us. But I am also, I'm a little concerned about someone who entered the process in good faith and is working towards getting their appropriate documents in order, then telling them that, kind of stopping them in that way. So I just think that that's something that we need to think about.
Yes, Ms. Patrick.
Except I think that we are trying to stop the influx of these types of, this is specific to this type of business, and I think that we have been for months talking about this and talking about the health risks, especially to our youth. And so, I mean, it's really a fine line. I get that. But at the same time, I think we've heard from business owners, we've heard from, that it's, you can see, just go to Upper Union Street as an example, and you can see that it's affecting the businesses around the other stores. So I think we are specifically targeting, to your point, we are specifically targeting these stores. We are making a judgment call here that these particular stores are affecting neighborhoods, are affecting business districts, are affecting health of residents. And so I do want to say that, yeah, we are. I mean, that's what this is. So rather than thinking about all of our businesses, we are saying smoke and vape shops here. We've had numerous presentations by the Smoke-Free New York people about this. I think, I hear what the mayor's saying about a date, but I mean, if we have to now wait 2 more weeks we are going to have to wait 2 more weeks to get this back now. So when do we start? Yeah, no, I get that. I know, but I'm just saying, when do we get to, so the previously submitted applications, if they're not open yet as stores, do we want them to open? I'm kind of thinking we don't want them to open. I hear what you're saying, I do. And believe me, I remember, before I was on council, there was discussion here because of some liquor stores that were on the block, at that time as well. So we are making a judgment call.
Right, but I want to make sure we're on good legal standing. I want to make sure that there's not an issue with that.
I think, so we do need that clarification about the previously submitted applications. And I do think that we should put June 1, for example, as an end date, if that's the date that we all agree on. That's my list.
Mr. Farley?
No, I just want to kind of echo and amen a lot what you were saying, because I agree with what our communities are telling us and the information and presentations that we have been having, a lot of good information. So I agree that these are not type of businesses that we want popping up everywhere the way they are. I just think that there is a balance that we have to be mindful of for any business that's operating or is entering into an agreement in good faith with the city, even if it's a business that we don't necessarily personally aren't fond of. If someone is entering in a good faith effort thus far, to kind of retroactively say, no, I just, it's one of those things that, if it's the right thing to do, but do we have the right to do it, kind of thing?
That's right.
Well put.
That's where we need the recommendation.
And that's what the Corporation Council going to look into, to see if there's
Okay,
those applications.
I'm sorry, I just have to say this, that because people have complained to me that we're like talking over each other, so one voice, thank you.
So, and that's what I asked, for look into that and get back to us, because do we have the legal capacity to kind of like shut them off, despite the fact that they submitted 6 months ago?
Yep.
If we can do that, that's fine. If we can't, then we need to address them one by one and just, tell them exactly that they're not in compliance because of documentation, or they just need to leave.
Do you have something more, Ms. Patrick? Mayor? Did you have more? Okay. Mr. Toro, did you have more? Okay. So, Mr. Morgan, I just wanted to I'm sorry, gentlemen, do you have more? William, Mr. Farley? Okay. So what you're asking the mayor to provide is?
No, I'm not asking me. Can we get an update on that spreadsheet to see where they are in terms of any movement? There could be movement on that sheet, so yes, we'll ask and see. And that
Hopefully there is movement every day. Unfortunately, there are places that are opening
every day.
happening also.
So we'll see the ones that we have on file where they are, and if they are not making any good faith effort to continue the process or not filing the documents, then those are the ones who will have to eventually put them out of business, unfortunately.
And so Mayor, just a question. So we are, the ones that are already open, we're having code enforcement visit to see that they're in compliance? Because there are a lot of them that I think nobody can disagree, there are a lot. So code enforcement is still doing that. Okay.
And when you have that list, if you're out in neighborhoods and you see something that's not on the list, send that in also. Because some of these have entirely bypassed the system.
That's a good idea. Okay, so, let's see. Is there any more discussion on that? Okay, so Mr. O'Brien, we'll see this back in 2 weeks with the tweaks?
Yes.
Or we'll see the tweaks before that, right?
We'll see the tweet, you'll see it beforehand.
Okay.
For your
So
committee session.
we'll bring this back to discuss it in 2 weeks. All right, thank you very much. So item number 6 is proceeding to recover possession of real property, home rule request in support of bill number A7556, S7547, requiring a petition in a summary proceeding to recover possession of real property in Schenectady to allege proof of compliance with local laws requiring rental, residential property registration, and licensure. And Mayor McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam President. This is something passed before. What this would do is require anybody who is starting an eviction proceeding, they have to be compliant with the rental certificate. So that if you haven't gotten the rental certificate and your apartment is in non-compliance, you would not be able to evict somebody. And it's unfortunate today we have what I believe is a good policy in place. We have a large number of landlords who comply with it. There unfortunately are still a significant number who don't comply with it. And those tend to be ones that there may be other problems, and people sometimes are put in vulnerable situations, and this will get our compliance rate up, hopefully to a higher level, and also allow us to help ensure that safe and decent housing is made available in the city of Schenectady across the board to everybody.
So is there an online process for people to be able to do this?
we still do an inspection too, so yes, you can start the application, but there's an inspection process.
So, and the reason, because when this was on the agenda, so I got a call from somebody who lives out of town, so they have a person here that, you know, takes care of their property.
Right,
So they can do it online.
They
but
have to do a rental, there has to be an agent.
Right,
to
and
do
so they
it.
have an agent.
Right.
So they can do it online, but their agent needs to be present here for,
But we still have to do an inspection of the property.
Right.
Yes.
right, so their agent could let you in. It doesn't have to be the owner of the property necessarily.
And we're looking all the time at how do you put more things online and make them more user-friendly.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure we had an online process. So any further questions regarding that? Yes, Mr. Williams?
I think it's more of a comment, just to put some thought behind it. I think we had the Department of HUD came and did a presentation at SICM a few months ago, and very much it's how do you get this information to the people that it affects. Because I think oftentimes they're functioning without this understanding and still being taken advantage of. I agree and support this moving forward, but just trying to put some thought behind, is there any way we can just push this narrative to the community, either put it out in local libraries or just some way to make the tenants and both landlords like fully aware of this process so they have this information ahead of having to start this process.
So is there a marketing piece? I'll leave that with.
We don't have one right now, but yes, I'm more than willing to put something together. And as part of the messaging, we're looking at modifying the trash collection rules, other things. Michelle had put together a summary, I think recently, just the process to open a business so that people kind of know it, but you know, there's a simple checklist that people can walk down and do it with a level of comfort. They know what they have to do, when they have to do it to get to where they want to be. So here's Mr. Williams, that yes, an education component is always key to making things successful.
Mr. Woodbury, what's your hand up?
Yes, I would say, yeah, we can reach out to the landlord association to help them to drive this to us, because this is an important piece of legislation in terms of safety.
Yeah.
Because I will tell you that there are apartment there that doesn't have inspection and people are not living in the safety standard that it's supposed to be living in. And it's a problem over there. So this legislation, and I hope it passed the assembly, and can be enforced locally by us here. We'll bring all these landlords into compliance and make sure that they have a safe and livable apartment for tenants out there. And I think landlord should not feel that they're a victim of this. It's protecting them also. By having a rental certificate in code enforcement and it's filed there, it gives them the legal upper hand on the legal side to say that their apartment was legally in compliance. They were inspected, passed, and a tenant is living there, and now there are some issues and concern. It's a different ball game. So I think it's they will benefit more by having a rental certificate on file for each tenant that occupy those apartments.
Mr. Furley?
Yeah, I was just going to, again, kind of add on to that and just say that I think that what we're doing here, this is a really, really, again, important piece of legislation. And I think that oftentimes some of our most vulnerable population within our city are some of the people who are taken advantage of and kind of live in that substandard housing situation. So I think that, one of the byproducts of that is, safe housing. And we also just have to keep asking ourselves the right questions around how do we make coming into compliance, easy and accessible for landlords, because what we want to do is make it as user friendly as we can to come to compliance. So then if somebody is not in compliance, then we kind of know, we've done our part. So I just want to say I support this fully, and hopefully this goes through.
So did you have, Mr. Troy?
Just agreeing, Mr. Furley.
Okay, so are you asking for a resolution or a something in support of?
This is home rule legislation.
Okay, so you're asking for home rule or just a resolution in support of? You're asking for the home rule?
It's a home rule process. So the bills have been introduced. This is one we did before. Didn't quite go as smooth as we would have liked. So it's to redo it again to actually get the legislation enacted.
So you want the home rule? Okay, so I need a motion. So Mr. Moon, your hand up? Or you,
No, I was just going to make a comment to say that when we're passing this home rule, I think there are two here that make sure that we have all the mechanism in place to make sure that we process it and file it with the state and not drop the ball on them. And I hope that the council and the mayor and his staff can work together so that we have this filed with the relevant agency in Albany.
So moved.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Item number 7 is a ceremonial resolution recognizing Women's History Month.
Yes, so March is Women's History Month this year, and we've been doing this for the last X number of years, the ceremonial resolution about March. This year, the theme for Women's History Month is Women Who Advocate for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. So I just would like to be able to have a ceremonial resolution recognizing March as Women's History Month.
Any discussion?
I'll
All
move
right.
this.
Second? Second, Ms. Patrick?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. There was a couple other things I wanted to bring before we go to executive session. The first one is I'm requesting the council to consider doing a ceremonial resolution for James Griffin. He's an employee whose last day will be the 28th, and he's a 40-year employee. I want to publicly thank the staff person, their co-worker in the city, who brought this to my attention, that they felt that their colleague deserved some recognition after having been put in 4 decades with the city of Schenectady, which I wholeheartedly agree with. So I would just ask the council to consider us putting together a ceremonial resolution for Mr. Griffin.
I'll move that.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Mutavera, and I will ask you, are you still interested?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to ask for consideration to add a CR to recognize Metro Ford for the vehicle donation towards our police department to use with our community police officer program throughout our school district. So the CR to recognize their valuable contribution to the Mustang Mach-E. The vehicle was out there. I have an opportunity to visit it with the mayor and Mr. Toro, and that's a wonderful gesture from Metro Ford. And a CR will go a long way to recognize their contribution towards our city.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll leave out of that where Councilmember DeToro was spinning the wheels.
No, we can't say that.
0 to 60 fast.
Mr. Toro does it go from 0 to 60?
The answer was fast.
All right, sorry.
So,
Yes.
moved in second, we're all set?
Yes.
All in favor, okay. So then there is one other last thing that I want to stress, that we came up at our meeting last Thursday, and we were having discussions about the community benefits agreement. We got an email from the mayor that there had already been one that was entered into, so that was signed the same day that we're having our discussions. And I would just like us to have the opportunity, because what I read, there were some things in there that were discussed that weren't included, so I'd like to know if there's an opportunity to revisit that and to add those things. And I just have to really ask, we were having that discussion, but it was signed on the same day, so I guess I'm a little perplexed as to why that wasn't, if it was already signed, that we were having those discussions and it was already done. So that's my question, Mayor.
Just given the authorization to enter into a contract, moved ahead with it. Council's still looking at the aspects of community benefits agreement. Union, the developer, county are open to discussion on that. There's things that were incorporated from the county's aspects. There's things that are incorporated from the city's aspects. And I look at it as a dynamic process, but want the project to move ahead.
Okay, well, go ahead, Mr.
No, I was just going to say that this is almost kind of a quote-unquote kind of good problem to have, because this is as a result of us moving forward with a project that's going to benefit our city. I just see this as more of a starting point, and I think that if both parties or all parties involved seem to be open to getting feedback from the community and more voices, I think that will benefit this process. And I think that as long as all parties seem really interested in having a meaningful community benefits package, that this isn't, something that, we couldn't amend along the way. In fact, I think that we'd be well suited to do so as order to be more responsive to the community. So I just would second that this is something, a good starting point, and we should kind of look at this as a living document, living process moving forward.
Is your hand up? Did you have to say that?
I was going to, but.
Oh, okay. You do or you don't?
Yeah, so, adding on my input, I think we're having a really candid, thoughtful conversation, and I think for myself, it's understanding how a community could submit to community benefits agreements. So I think in your comments, you said that you'd be open to having those merge, and then I've heard the comment of like dynamic and living. So I hope that as a city, we'd be able to submit one document reflective of the interests and needs for the neighborhoods. As again, I think just having multiple iterations, it seems convoluted and almost in an aspect like waters down the importance of having it.
Well, quite frankly, we went through a budget process where the council pushed the budget back where it was the latest budget we've ever had in the history of the city. There are 3 items on the agenda tonight that should have been enacted last year. They're not. We got to go through another cycle. The other item with the sidewalk, again, the council didn't act that in a timely manner. So I look forward to working with you, but I'm going to move some things ahead, maybe in a manner that you find less than desirable, but I got to manage the city. I got to keep moving projects so that they're actually happening and we're getting results. So again, I look forward to working with you. Look at it as a dynamic process. That project is exciting. Other communities are envious that we're doing it here, and it's going to create opportunities that we don't even think of today.
I don't disagree with that, but I just think that communication is important, and if this process was already, if you felt like you were being delayed and taking too long, that to have communicated that to the council and that did not come forward, and then we would know that the mayor feels like we need to move more quickly, because based on what we did, we had a meeting, we then called for our next meeting, and everybody knew when that was going to be. So if there was going to something happening before, just communication to the council. And I know that you pointed out like all these things didn't happen, so all of this does not rest with the council. I have to say that. Some of that rests with the staff. But we're not here to, we as a council said that we were going to work together collectively and along with you, and that's what we really want to do. But, communication to us. I'm certainly, my phone is the same. It's, you can get emails, just that we communicate so that we really are working together as working together works, and that's the saying that's being put out there. So that's all I'm asking for, is that we just have that information communicated to us so we can act accordingly. And again, I will say that we can talk about the past, but no one's perfect at this table. So we have made a very firm commitment about moving forward, and I think that's what we should do, and not necessarily just scratch the wounds and scabs of the past. Mr., is your pen up?
Oh, yeah, well, sure. Yeah, thank you. So I just would kind of highlight the fact that this is not an opportunity that has fled us at all. I think that this is, again, we still have an opportunity to bring, any of the suggestions that have been discussed at the table of the council. I think that all the parties involved seem to be pretty intentional about wanting a robust community benefits package. So again, as we have amended other documents to better suit and practices to better suit the needs of the community, I would say that this is no different. And if we focus on kind of looking forward to this, how do we just make sure we get in some of the things that that the existing benefits agreement didn't include, things like vendor opportunities for MWBEs. There's what the existing package covered a lot of good things and was really aligned with some of the conversations that I've heard. So I think it's good, but I think that we definitely need to just make sure that the process is a more inclusive one moving forward.
And with the also inclusive of the community, because it's called a community benefits agreement. So I think that we also need to hear a little bit more community voice as we move forward, and not everything just come from this table. I mean, I did mention that the comments that I brought forward were at a community meeting I was at, but that wasn't called specifically for that purpose. but I did it because I was there and the community was present. So I think that if we, its very nature, community benefits agreement needs to include some input from the community. It just makes sense. I appreciate you bringing forward about the MWBE and also local hire as we're doing all these projects, and to make sure that the people who live here locally are able to benefit from some of the job opportunities that will come forward from the construction. It's going to be a very major $50 million construction project. So to see make sure that money circulates within the city. I'm just going to be real specific. Within the city, I think is really important and something that we want to make sure that we move forward.
Just one more really quick thing. I just want to again just talk about the fact that we seem like we're in a really good place with this project, and the developer union, obviously us in the city, everyone sees why a community benefits package is an important thing, and I think that I anticipate a pretty smooth process, raising more ways that this can benefit our community. I think that's been the spirit of this entire project. So I just want to highlight that again.
Mr. Rivera.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. I mean, what I would like to suggest is that we should, basically the discussion that we had the last meeting, we should move forward with a draft of the community benefits agreement that we had discussed and pretty much lay on the table, and to look forward and see if we can able to amend it and resubmit it into that package that was already submitted. So kind of work with a draft, get a draft, and let's discuss it. That was agreed on, and let's see if we can amend that version. It'll be good. I mean, look, all of us support this project, and I think it's good that we had a good discussion in terms of community benefits agreement. Even the developer agreed with us to. Yes, he is in favor of that. So in one part that we kind of put that together, yes, time of the essence, it may have signed it and submit it, but then, we can always revisit it and kind of submit something that is in agreement with us and also in agreement with the developer. And I did mention that once we have the draft, we then send it to them, give them an opportunity for them to review it, come back with any changes, and we move forward with the discussion, things like that. With regards to the sidewalk, I mean, that was an oversight. It was done last year. Many of us can't even recall that sidewalk project was done. So there was a council member, and me and his staff went ahead and did the sidewalk program. Some of us were not even aware that it was ongoing. Yes, I was initially involved in it at the beginning, but I was totally sidelined. So, and that was the reason why for the Central Parkway sidewalk, I'm working with the mayor and his staff to make sure that we put every steps in place to make sure that we have the documentation. The public hearing was called. We have the documentation, the mailing, and everything is going to be put in place to make sure that we do not go back. What happened there should not have happened. And we as a council, we should not be taking blame for that.
Right, so what I'm hearing is that we'll get more information to the mayor, and I would also suggest, because when Mr. Williams was talking, he talked about different groups, so maybe if we reach out to Sun, because we need to expedite the process. So we reach out to Sun and say, and then Sun reaches out to the neighborhoods so that we're not trying to do this on short, drag out the process. Ms. Patrick.
Well, I hear what you all are saying. I think that I wish that, but this is now an executed agreement, so the work is going to start, or has started, I should say, I think. I think that most of what we talked about, when I did read the community benefits agreement that we received from the mayor's office, is included in that agreement. There were a couple of things that, I hear what you're saying about MWBE. I'm not really sure to what extent that, isn't that already like something that's already on the books in terms of MWBE? But one of the things that was mentioned was the internships, just as one example of something that isn't in the existing signed community benefits agreement, which is already out there. But I think that, that would be a great suggestion. I don't think that we need to redraft another community benefits agreement, I guess is what I'm saying. I think that having interns or, some of these other things that we talked about are just good suggestions, and I think we'd have to put some faith into the developer around some of that. We wouldn't even know, if there was internships, for example, we have to work with the school district to make sure that, is it going to be students from the school district, or is it going to be students from SCCC? I mean, those are kinds of things that I say we leave in the hands of the developer, with just the understanding that those are things that we hope will happen.
Ms. Farley and then Mr. Mudamer.
So I think, again, I think we gave the mayor permission to act, and he acted, and I can appreciate that, and I think that we all are excited and anxious to get this project underway. I would just caution us, like, I mean, this isn't something where we want to like fight for our limitations for. I mean, if we have a working and willing partner who has expressed that they community benefits package is something that they value, and if the community can benefit more and we can make it official, and the developers agrees, then I mean, it's almost like, you know, why not do that? You know what I mean? So I do have faith in the intentions of the developer. I mean, Deep Sierra, I was pretty impressed with his, you know, saying like, hey, just come up with something. If it doesn't work, you know, I would say that he might even kind of raise the threshold of accountability to a level that we weren't. So I am pretty, I have a lot of faith there, but I think that as how we operate here is if we have a ready and willing partner to say, you know what, I can do that, and that makes sense, why not add it? You know what I mean? I don't think that it holds up the progress of the project any. So I think that.
Mr. Mudamer?
No, I was going to echo something similar to Mr. Farley, is that the developers here, I mean, some of the things he did mention and give us ideas to put into the benefit agreement, which was, you know, words that came from, suggestion that came from him. So I think it won't hurt, it will go a long way. It will build more trust that we discuss it. We were told by the developer XYZ, we should enact it and you know, put it into the agreement and, you know, work along that line. We can't just, you know, just say we have it for discussion. We are back against the timing of it. Yes, if the timing is of the essence and the contract needs to get signed and deliver to move on, it doesn't stop us from revisiting the benefit agreement and put these things in place. It will go a long way. It will go a long way in terms of building trust for the community and building trust for this developer going forward, on all developers.
Mr. Toro?
I thought that we were going to have some type of draft this evening from the last, someone was going to put things together of what was said around the table. So I don't see anything presented, but I do know with the, I don't have the agreement here in front of me that the mayor put out, there was some, I think it emulated a lot of what you put forward, of what the community wanted. Unfortunately, you know, there wasn't anything there about, you know, seats at the table, which I personally am not in agreement of, but since it's going to be a privately run company. But again, I don't think whatever we bring forward, I don't know if that all of us will agree on it anyway, and we're just going to take time, and the agreement's out there, and honestly, I was pleased with how it was written and what it did for our community, so.
So let me address something that you stated about there not being anything here.
Right.
Well, we had a meeting on Thursday, and then in our Friday email, we got it. So to me, there was no purpose of bringing it here. We needed to have this discussion is in terms of whether we were going to move forward. There was already an agreement. I didn't know prior to this discussion that the mayor would still be open to doing that. So that's why there's no draft here, because we already got it in our email. So I just want to make that 100% clear that it's not that we're dragging our feet. We already got something that was, we weren't even aware that existed. So that's why there is no draft. And now that we're clear that the mayor said it's a dynamic process and he's willing and open to that, and the developer is as well, then we can move forward with that. But I didn't want to bring something just for us to, when they didn't know there was a window of opportunity. So now we know there's a window of opportunity. Mr. Mudamer?
So if I may suggest that we should go back to the notes from the last meeting and just
Absolutely.
create a draft.
We can do that.
And we can email it to the council, then give the opportunity to the developer and the mayor to view it, and then we can bring it to the council based on the feedback we receive from the developer.
Do that. And I just, for information purposes, there was another community meeting that's going on Thursday, and you know, I'll just kind of discuss it, and if people have ideas, you know, I'll throw them in there, and they don't have to be good. I mean, they don't have to be good. They don't necessarily have to be approved but we will have at least heard some level of community voice, because I think the community benefits agreement deserves to have voices from the community. So, Mayor, you said, so you're open to us putting something forward that we can have consideration?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
So can we attach a timeline to that? Can we get this draft before the week is out?
Yes, we can have the draft by, I'll say, Friday. How's
Okay,
that? Today's
yes.
Tuesday? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's right, holiday, not a Monday. So if anyone, there isn't anything that you mentioned at the meeting that you want included, please just email it. I think everything's, if you don't mind, we'll email it to Ms. Maiku, and that way she has it in one, it'll be in one place, so that we're not emailing all around to each other, and that Ms. Maiku can then forward everything to all members of the council. I know that we put a lot for all our things, so thank you for the work that you do, Ms. Maiku. Is there any further discussion on that? Okay, once again, I need to recess city development plan and claims so that, city development and planning so that claims can be called to order. Motion to recess?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I'd like to open up claims.
Why don't you go into executive session?
Well-
Because it's litigation.
Well, she'll open, then she'll go to executive
Oh,
We
session.
have to open it. Then we're going to
Oh, sorry. Oh, good.
No, my fault.
No, it's not me.
Carl, I'm sorry, it's Carl. Sorry about that, Carl.
So I'd like to call to order the Claims Committee. We have one item on the agenda which needs to be taken in executive session. May I have a motion to enter executive session? Second. All in favor?
We're in executive session, and so the public will have to leave.